Imagine you're a veteran financial detective, right? You've spent basically the last 2 decades tracking dirty money through this massive labyrinth of offshore shell companies.
Right, wire transfers, Swiss bank accounts, all the classics.
Exactly. You know the traditional financial system inside and out.
Hmm.
But then suddenly your primary target just liquidates all their assets and moves millions of dollars into a decentralized digital wallet.
Poof. They're just gone into the ether.
Yeah, they're using code you don't understand, operating this blockchain network that doesn't have like a CEO or a compliance department you could just subpoena.
Which is the nightmare scenario for traditional law
It
enforcement.
really is. So how do you catch them? Well, today in this deep dive, we are looking at the exact boot camp that is teaching these old sheriffs new tricks.
And it's so necessary because we are witnessing a massive structural shift in global finance right now.
Sure, sure.
For years, the prevailing narrative was always that digital assets existed in this regulatory blind spot. Like it was a place where traditional rules simply couldn't be enforced because of how the technology was built.
Wild West, basically.
Exactly. But what we're seeing now is this transition from a period of, passive observation into highly structured, specialized enforcement.
They're not just trying to catch up anymore.
No, they're building an entirely new framework to police the blockchain.
And that framework is exactly what we're unpacking today. We've got official documentation from ACAMS. That's the Association of Certified Anti-Money Laundering Specialists.
The heavy hitters in the compliance world.
Right. And specifically, we are breaking down the mechanics of their CCAS certification, which stands for the Certified Cryptoasset Anti-Financial Crime Specialist Program.
It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's important.
Very. So whether you are a compliance professional trying to, figure out your next career move, or maybe a tech enthusiast watching this regulatory landscape shift,
Yeah.
or just someone curious about how regulators are actually trying to tame the blockchain, this deep dive is going to reveal all the rigorous behind-the-scenes mechanics of that training.
And I think the creation of this specific certification is a total watershed moment. ACAMS is already recognized globally as the gold standard for traditional financial compliance.
Yeah, they issue the big ones like the CAMS certification for anti-money laundering.
Right, and the CGSS for global sanctions. So by introducing CCS, they are taking decades of established traditional anti-financial crime methodology and explicitly mapping it onto the crypto space.
They're formalizing the whole discipline.
Exactly. They're making it official.
So let's unpack the core philosophy here, because it really addresses a fundamental friction in the financial world. If you think about traditional banking and finance, it operates a lot like a well-maintained, paved highway. You've got clearly marked lanes, strictly enforced speed limits, traffic lights, and, highway patrol cars sitting right there in the median running radar.
Every institution on that highway understands the rules of the road.
Right. And the crypto sector, by stark contrast, was deliberately engineered to operate without any of those central authorities.
It is an off-road rally race.
Yes. It's dirt tracks, unpredictable terrain, vehicles flying in literally every direction, and virtually zero speed limit.
It's total chaos.
So what ACAMS is doing with this CCS certification is essentially offering an intensely rigorous training camp to forge, like an elite group of off-road referees.
I love that analogy.
They're validating a professional's ability to wade into that chaos and actually manage the financial crime risks, applying controls, assessing threats, navigating all these new regulations specifically for digital assets.
And what's fascinating here is, the strategic genius of the program really reveals itself when you look at the target audience.
Okay, how so?
Well, the immediate assumption most people make is that a crypto compliance certification would be exclusively for people working at, digital wallet startups or cryptocurrency exchanges.
Sure, the crypto natives.
Right. But the official documentation outlines a much broader, much more ambitious demographic. Yes, it targets those crypto organizations, but it is also explicitly engineered for traditional AML professionals, consultants, and crucially, governmental entities.
Wait, like law enforcement and regulators?
Exactly. Regulatory examiners, federal agents, that inclusion of the government and the traditional sector is the real story here.
So they're not just creating some niche tech credential for developers in Silicon Valley.
No, they are actively constructing a bridge. They're trying to drag the legacy financial oversight apparatus kicking and screaming into the digital asset era.
Wow. So they're forging a unified language, essentially.
That's a perfect way to put it. Consider the friction you get during a standard financial investigation. If a federal law enforcement officer and a compliance director at a private crypto exchange don't share a fundamental understanding of how AML controls apply to a blockchain.
The investigation just stalls out.
Exactly, it falls apart. The CCAS certification ensures that both sides of that equation share a baseline, validated comprehension of risk assessment in the digital space.
It builds this ecosystem of accountability.
Right.
So you have this ambitious goal of creating off-road referees, but you can't just, walk in off the street, pay a quick fee, and walk out with this credential.
Oh, definitely not.
The source materials outline a remarkably strict barrier to entry. This is not an introductory course by any means.
The eligibility requirements are heavily designed to filter out casual applicants. Before a candidate is even permitted to register for the exam, they have to hold an active ACAMS membership.
And present verified evidence of 40 eligibility credits, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
40 credits.
And you definitely do not just buy those credits at checkout. You have to earn them through your actual real-world background.
Yeah, it's a whole process.
The documentation notes you can accumulate these credits through your highest level of formal education, like holding a bachelor's or master's degree. You also earn credits for every full year of professional experience you have working specifically in anti-financial crime.
Plus, if you already hold other professional certifications like the traditional CAMS or CGSS we mentioned earlier, those count toward your eligibility threshold too.
It's a very deliberate gatekeeping mechanism.
Totally. ACAMS is making sure that the professionals entering this specialized crypto program already possess a robust, tested foundation in the professional world.
They want people who understand the gravity of financial crime before they ever introduce the complexities of a decentralized ledger.
Exactly. They want veterans.
Okay, so once a candidate actually clears that 40 credit hurdle, the program forces them through 3 core online courses.
Right, the mandatory curriculum.
The curriculum is broken down into Cryptoasset and blockchain, then AML foundations for Cryptoasset and blockchain, and finally, risk management programs for Cryptoasset and blockchain.
And the progression of those 3 modules is highly intentional.
Oh, for sure.
First, you establish the underlying technical reality of the blockchain. Second, you overlay the traditional anti-money laundering frameworks onto that technology.
And then third, you learn how to actively deploy it.
Right, managing those frameworks on an organizational level to actually mitigate the risk.
But here's where it gets really interesting, and honestly a bit counterintuitive to me.
Okay.
When you read the fine print in the eligibility section, ACAMS explicitly states that the program assumes the candidate has roughly 18 to 24 months of anti-financial crime experience.
Yep.
But then they note that while prior knowledge of the crypto space is helpful, it is completely unnecessary.
I know, it sounds wild.
It really does.
Yeah.
Let me just emphasize that. Demonstrating a thorough understanding of the traditional financial crime framework is actually prioritized over having any direct hands-on experience in the crypto sector.
And that is the defining philosophical stance of the entire CCAS program, and frankly, it's brilliant.
See, I have to push back on that, though. We are talking about regulating a highly technical, decentralized environment that operates on incredibly complex code.
Sure.
Why on earth would a certifying body prioritize a traditional suit-and-tie compliance background over someone who actually knows how a blockchain operates on a granular level? Like, why prioritize the veteran detective who can maybe barely use a smartphone over the crypto-native developer?
Because the underlying human mechanics of the crime do not change.
Really?
Yes. The psychological and organizational principles of laundering illicit funds, or defrauding retail investors, or evading international economic sanctions, those remain completely identical, regardless of the technology facilitating the act.
Okay, so the crime itself is exactly the same. It's just like the getaway car looks different.
That is the perfect way to look at it. From a teaching standpoint, it is vastly more efficient to take a seasoned compliance expert, someone who has spent years developing an intuition for spotting suspicious activity,
Right.
someone who understands all the intricate legal nuances of global regulatory frameworks and knows how to properly document evidence. You take them, and you teach them how a digital wallet functions.
Versus the alternative.
Exactly. Trying to take a brilliant blockchain developer and force-feed them 2 decades worth of international anti-financial crime law, that is a much steeper, more perilous hill to climb.
Yeah, I see your point.
The mechanical workings of a blockchain can be taught relatively quickly through those 3 core modules, but the intuition for dismantling a global financial crime syndicate, that takes years of real-world friction to develop.
When you frame it like that, the requirement makes total sense. You want the veteran detective to learn about digital tokens. You do not want the digital token inventor trying to learn how to be a detective on the fly. Which brings us to the methodology of the exam itself. How do they actually measure if these seasoned experts have successfully translated their instincts over to the blockchain?
Well, the evaluation process is where the true rigor of the CCAS designation really shines. ACAMS does not treat this as a simple formality.
Not at all.
Once the 40 credits are verified and the 3 modules are done, candidates face a highly pressurized testing environment.
Pressurized might be an understatement. Let's look at the actual gauntlet they've constructed here. The exam is 175 minutes long.
Almost 3 hours.
Yeah, just shy of 3 hours. And in that time, candidates have to answer 100 questions.
Yeah.
And the documentation is very clear that these are not simple, true or false softballs.
Oh, yeah.
The test utilizes multiple choice questions requiring a single answer, alongside multiple select questions where the candidate has to identify every correct variable from a list of options.
Which are always the hardest.
The absolute worst. And it's currently administered strictly in English, too.
Right. And if you do the math on that time limit, candidates have roughly 1 minute and 45 seconds per question.
Wow.
When you are dealing with complex, multi-layered regulatory scenarios and highly technical, multiple select options, that time just evaporates instantly.
I can imagine.
The exam is engineered to test way more than just rote memorization. It's testing operational fluency. It forces you to demonstrate rapid, accurate recall under severe cognitive pressure.
Which mirrors the reality of real-time financial risk management.
Exactly. It mimics the job.
It's also a significant financial commitment, which obviously acts as another filter. For candidates in the private sector, the certification package costs $1,995.
It's an investment.
But there's this fascinating detail regarding the pricing. For the public sector, the cost drops to $1,495.
That $500 discount for the public sector is a highly strategic lever by ACAMS.
How so?
Historically, there has been an immense friction between rapid technological innovators and government regulators. And a big part of that is because government agencies rarely have the budget to continuously train their staff on bleeding-edge tech.
Right. They just don't have the funding that private tech companies have.
Exactly. So by heavily subsidizing the cost for law enforcement and public regulators, ACAMS is aggressively seeding government agencies with this specialized knowledge. They're actively lowering the barrier for the public sector to catch up.
Now, for that price tag, they do provide an absolute arsenal of study materials.
They really do.
Candidates receive the mandatory e-learning courses, a comprehensive downloadable PDF study guide, digital flashcards, chapter review questions. It's a lot.
It's very thorough.
They also provide access to practice exams, which feature a really smart design. Candidates can take a version that hides the answers, allowing them to simulate the sheer panic of the real 175-minute test.
Right.
Or they can take a version that reveals the answers immediately, so they can treat the exam itself as a learning tool.
And for organizations or individuals who need even more structure, the documentation notes that ACAMS offers optional virtual classroom bundles for an additional fee.
Oh, right.
Yeah, those add 4 to 6 weeks of live, web-based study sessions led directly by their subject matter experts. The point here is that ACAMS provides every conceivable tool necessary to master the material legitimately.
Which makes their security protocols surrounding the exam seem even more intense.
Yeah, the NDAs.
Yes. When you read the non-disclosure and copyright agreements attached to this test, it reads less like a professional certification and more like you're being granted access to a proprietary algorithmic trading secret at a major hedge fund.
It is dead serious.
The text explicitly states that candidates cannot discuss the content of the exam with absolutely anyone. You are forbidden from recording, copying, or disclosing any questions or answers in any medium.
And the penalties outlined for violating that agreement are severe, intentionally so.
They threaten civil lawsuits and the pursuit of monetary damages. They explicitly mention court-enforced penalties and potential criminal charges. But the most striking threat is professional.
Oh yeah, the revocation.
If you are caught compromising the exam's integrity, they will cancel your test scores and permanently revoke not just the CCAS certification, but any other ACAMS certifications you have ever earned.
Everything you've worked for.
They will strip your membership and effectively banish you from the global compliance community. Why is a private certifying body taking such an incredibly draconian stance on test integrity?
Because the fundamental economic value of any professional certification relies entirely on its reputation as an unassailable measure of competence.
Right.
The CCS designation only holds weight with global regulators, it only justifies higher salaries, and it only opens doors for career advancement if employers trust the process completely.
That makes sense.
If the integrity of the exam is compromised, like if question banks are leaked online or candidates find a structural way to cheat, the certification instantly becomes worthless.
It shatters the shield. Like if a major financial institution hires a CCS certified compliance officer and that officer subsequently fails to detect a massive crypto laundering operation because they cheated their way through the exam.
The institutional fallout doesn't just damage the officer.
Right, the failure indicts the entire certification program.
Exactly that. By providing such an overwhelming abundance of legitimate study materials, the flashcards, the retakeable practice exams, all of it, ACAMS removes any valid excuse for seeking an unfair advantage.
They're saying, we gave you everything you need.
Right. They declare themselves the final authority on test integrity, and they note that if they even suspect a violation, credentials are revoked without a refund. They are fiercely protecting the ecosystem they're trying to build.
So let's follow the journey of a successful candidate. You gather your 40 eligibility credits, you pay the tuition fee, you dedicate weeks to the 3 core modules.
You study like crazy.
You survive the 175-minute, 100-question gauntlet, and you maintain absolute silence about the test contents. You are officially an off-road referee for the digital frontier.
Congratulations.
But the source materials reveal that the finish line is actually just another starting line.
Yeah, this is the catch.
The CCAS certification is only valid for 3 years.
And you have to remember, in the context of traditional finance, 3 years is a pretty standard review period. But in the context of digital assets, 3 years is a geological epoch.
That is exactly what I was thinking. 3 years in crypto is an absolute century. Just think about the landscape 36 months ago.
It was completely different.
Half of the tokens, the decentralized finance protocols, and the smart contract structures that exist today hadn't even been conceptualized, let alone coded.
Exactly.
How can a 3-year recertification cycle possibly be fast enough to keep up with a technological environment that mutates on a weekly basis?
It is the ultimate tension for any compliance professional in this space. But the way ACAM addresses this time lapse is actually highly effective.
Okay, how do they handle it?
While the formal administrative recertification only occurs every 3 years, which involves paying a renewal fee ranging from a $200 early bird rate to a $300 late fee, the vital operational mechanism is their continuing education requirement.
Okay, so to successfully recertify at that 3-year mark, professionals must prove they have earned 30 continuing education credits during that window.
Right. And the rules stipulate that at least 15 of those credits must be derived directly from ACAMS sanctioned training or events.
Which forces them to stay engaged.
Exactly. That ongoing requirement fundamentally alters the behavior of the certified professional. It eliminates the possibility of passing the exam, completely ignoring the industry for 35 months, and then cramming for a renewal test at the last minute.
You can't just set it and forget it.
To accumulate 30 credits over 3 years, a professional is forced into a state of continuous learning. They must consistently attend updated webinars, participate in new training sessions, engage with industry conferences.
It ensures that the regulatory workforce remains a moving target.
Precisely. Adapting and evolving just as rapidly as the blockchain technologies they are tasked with monitoring.
It's a system of forced professional evolution, and the documentation actually provides a tangible, real-world example of what this evolution looks like in practice.
Oh, you mean the Gavin Sather quote?
Yeah, exactly. The source highlights a quote from a professional named Gavin Sather, who operates as a cryptocurrency and blockchain investigator.
Right.
He details how holding the CCAS certification completely transformed his professional trajectory.
And Gavin's narrative is the perfect synthesis of the entire ACAMS strategy. He explicitly notes his transition from a role in public law enforcement into the private sector.
He is literally crossing that bridge we discussed earlier.
He is. And for a professional making that specific transition, the CCAS certification serves 2 distinct purposes. First, it validates his deep, overarching commitment to foundational anti-money laundering principles.
Because he had to meet all those prerequisites.
Right. And second, it serves as undeniable proof to private sector employers that his investigative skills successfully translate to the highly technical realm of blockchain assets.
Which is a huge asset for a company.
Huge. Gavin stated that the credential directly opened doors for his career growth. So for you listening right now, this is the ultimate validation of the program's utility.
It's real-world proof.
Yeah, the CCAS is actively forging a specialized workforce capable of moving seamlessly between public oversight and private innovation.
It establishes a shared standard of excellence in a space defined by volatility. So let's step back and look at the entire picture we painted today.
It's a big picture.
It is. We began by examining the crypto frontier, this chaotic off-road rally race operating without speed limits or centralized referees.
And we explored how ACAMS recognized the urgent need to bring structured oversight to this space. Not by teaching coders the law, but by teaching veteran financial detectives how to read the digital landscape.
Right. We analyzed the rigorous entry requirements, specifically the 40 eligibility credits that act as a professional filter, ensuring candidates possess a firm grounding in traditional financial crime frameworks before they ever touch the crypto curriculum.
We broke down the immense psychological and intellectual pressure of the 175-minute exam.
100 questions, multiple select, all in English.
Yep. We discussed the strategic importance of subsidizing the public sector to get regulators up to speed and examined the zero-tolerance NDA policy required to protect the certification's global reputation.
And finally, we explored the demanding reality of maintaining the credential through constant ongoing education, just to prevent your knowledge from going obsolete in a hyper-accelerated industry.
It is a monumental undertaking. Achieving and maintaining this certification requires a profound investment of time, financial resources, and continuous intellectual energy.
So the next time you are scrolling through your news feed and you see a headline about a massive decentralized crypto scam being dismantled or a major regulatory crackdown on an offshore digital exchange,
You now understand the mechanics of what is happening behind the curtain.
exactly. There is a quiet, highly trained workforce out there armed with CCAS certifications, meticulously decoding the blockchain and bringing order to the frontier.
They are the professionals doing the unseen, complex labor required to bridge the gap between technological innovation and global financial security.
But, tracing the sheer effort required to build this workforce does leave us with one final provocative thought to ponder.
What's that?
If global regulators and compliance officers have to subject themselves to hundreds of hours of rigorous study, thousands of dollars in examination fees, and mandatory continuous education simply to establish a baseline defense against crypto-related financial crime,
Right.
how much faster and with how much more agility are the bad actors working right now to invent entirely new digital loopholes?
That is the scary question.
Is a rigorously structured certification program like CCAS a permanent, unbreakable shield for the financial system? Or is it merely a highly sophisticated net, desperately trying to catch water in the fastest-moving financial sector in human history? Something for you to think about.